Hello, everyone. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. I would appreciate it. As I like starting out, I would like to read the Bible verse, Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Things, let me scroll down. And in Matthew 18:10, take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. I hope everyone's having a good day today. Let's grow this. Um, got the wrong thing scrolled up right there. Hold on, let me make sure. To report child abuse, you can call 911. The Tulsa Police Chief Child Crisis Unit. It's got numbers down here at the bottom of the Oklahoma hotline. This is a story that's come out of Oklahoma. Hey, good to see you. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here, Jackie. I appreciate you. So, first, I'm going to show y'all the timeline on where the police have said timeline at Facebook. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up. I think I need to make it the full screen right here. I'm sorry. Okay. Disturbing child abuse, arrest, homicide investigation. This was February the 10th. Warning, the details of this case are graphic and may be hard to read. On January 27, 2023, grandmother called Tulsa police to file a report about a child that was missing for several years and possibly deceased, along with serious continued sexual abuse to another child. Grandmother said her daughter Camille Lewis left a 13-year-old daughter to live with her last September, and the girl was skin and bones from malnourishment. At the time, the grandmother said Lewis said her 11-year-old son was deceased. Child crisis detectives interviewed the 13-year-old girl. She said that her mother, Camille Lewis, and her stepfather, John Miles, would lock her and her brother in separate closets for days at a time, not feed them, and beat them with belts and cords. The girl said at times she had to urinate, defecate in a bag or cup in the closet. The girl told detectives the abuse started in November of 2020 and ended in September of 2022 when she went to live with her grandmother. The girl said John Miles would offer her food in exchange for sexual favors. Said sometimes she and her brother would be forced to sleep in an igloo style doghouse in the backyard and exercise outdoors in very cold weather. The girl said in March of 2021 she heard her mother crying and begging her brother to wake up. The girl said her mother later told her that her brother had a seizure and died, and they did not take him to the hospital because they did not want to be in trouble. The girl said in August of 2021 her mother told her that her younger brother died in her arms, and that John Miles and a cousin buried the brother in a park. The girl said her mom disclosed that Miles later went back and dug the brother's body up, brought him back to the house, burned the body in a barrel, then discarded the ashes in a drainage system. On February the 7th, 2023, Camille Lewis was taken into custody. She admitted to abusing the children and causing the scars all over her daughter's body. Camille Lewis claimed uh, Camille Lewis was taken into custody. She admitted to abusing children. She claimed her son ran away 2 years ago and has not been seen since. Of course, she don't want to be charged with accessory to murder. Of course, she lying about it. On February the 8th, 2023, John Miles was taken into custody. John Miles and Camille Lewis were arrested for child abuse by injury and child neglect. Their bond is currently set at $600,000. Detectives are actively investigating the case, and at this time, this is considered to be a homicide investigation. The remains of the brother have not been found. Charges cannot be amended depending on the outcome of the investigation. State law under Title 10A, Section 12-101 requires every person who has reason to believe that a child under 18 is a victim of abuse to report the suspicion of abuse immediately to the Oklahoma Department of Human Services. A report of suspected child abuse is a request for an investigation to gather facts and protect the child from further harm. The person reporting abuse does not need to prove abuse prior to reporting. Investigation and determination of abuse are the responsibility of DHS, law enforcement, and the judicial system. And there's the numbers right there as I got it scrolling at the bottom as well. And listen, for more information about reporting child abuse, you go to childabusenetwork.org. It's got some facts in there. Here's the culprits. There's the mother, Camille Lewis, and the stepfather, John Miles. And then some of the people asked, these are just people's comments, you know? Like somebody said, if the cousin would help remove the body, why isn't he behind bars? I bet if they pick him up, he'll spill all the details. Praying for the young girl. Jesus keep her safe. Good question. Why don't they arrest him just to be on the safe side, right? And see which one this one is. This is set at November 14th, and this one is set February 10th, okay? Two charged in disturbing Tulsa child abuse homicide investigation. Tulsa Police Department arrested two people on Wednesday in connection with what they called a disturbing child abuse and homicide investigation. The police department posted details on its Facebook page on Friday with a timeline of what they say happened, which we just went over that. Tulsa police say a grandmother called them to file a report January 27th about a missing and possibly dead child, along with another child who suffered sexual abuse. The grandmother said her daughter, Camille Lewis, left her 13-year-old daughter to live with her last September, and the girl was skin and bones from malnourishment. The grandmother said Lewis told her 11-year-old son was dead. Tulsa police detectives interviewed a 13-year-old who said that her mother and stepfather, John Miles, would lock her and her brother in separate closets for a day at a time, denying them food and beating them with belts and cords. Police say the girl told detectives that Miles would offer her food in exchange for sexual favors, and sometimes she and her brother would be forced to sleep in a doghouse in the backyard and exercise outside in cold weather. The girl said the abuse started in November 2020 and ended in September 2022 when she went to live with a grandmother. Within that time span, she said her brother died. She told detectives that in March 2021, she heard her mother crying and begging her brother to wake up, and that her mother told her that her brother had a seizure and died. She said her mother didn't take him to the hospital because they didn't want to get in trouble. Detectives say the girl told them that her mother said Miles and a cousin buried the brother in a park, but Miles later dug him back up, brought him back to the house, and burned the body in a barrel, throwing the ashes in a drainage system. Police arrested Lewis on February the 7th, and they say she admitted to abusing the children and causing the scars all over the daughter's body. However, she said ran away. Officers arrested Miles the next day. Got myself a copy. Okay. Both of them are charged with child abuse and child neglect. Miles is also charged with child sex abuse. Better, the case is still considered to be a homicide investigation, and charges could be added pending the outcome of the investigation. Exactly. The Tulsa Police Department reminded people after the details of the case about reported suspected child abuse, which we went over that a few minutes ago. All right, I'm fixing to silence myself, and well, you'll be able to listen to this video here, so that so bear with me a second while I change this. I don't mind showing.
Took us a while to be able to interview the girl, but once we did, it was even worse than we thought.
The case started last month. That's when Lieutenant Stephen Lamb says a woman told Tulsa police her granddaughter was sexually abused while living with her mother and stepfather. The woman also told police her grandson had been missing for almost 2 years and she thought he was dead.
Her and her brother had been confined in rooms and closets, and had been punished with excessive physical activity, running, those kinds of things. Have been beaten, denied food, denied bathrooms.
Child crisis detectives interviewed the 13-year-old girl, and she told them her mother, Camille Lewis, and her stepfather, John Miles, locked her and her brother in separate closets for days at a time and abused them with belts and cords. The girl told detectives she was forced to use the bathroom in a cup inside the closet and sometimes forced to sleep outside in an igloo-style doghouse. The 13-year-old also said that Miles would offer her food in exchange for sexual favors.
Is this one of, the worst cases y'all have seen?
Yeah, this is easily the worst.
TPD says the little girl says in March 2021, her mother told her her brother was dead and that Miles and a cousin buried his body in a park. She told police her mother later told her that Miles dug the little boy's body back up and burned it in a barrel, then dumped his ashes in a drainage system.
It was a blended family. She had kept the boy from seeing his father for a couple of years. Always had an excuse for where he was. He was at school, which he wasn't, or he was at somebody else's house. And I don't know, I can't explain to you how he fell through the cracks for so long.
The boy's remains have not been found, and detectives are now investigating his case as a homicide.
It's our responsibility to stop the spread of HIV. Text Muskogee PrEP to 55251 to get connected to treatment or receive a free test kit today. Let's stop HIV together.
First at 5 o'clock, a Tulsa couple remains in jail with more than $1 million bond each for child abuse and neglect charges. Thanks for joining us. I'm Craig Day.
And I'm Lori Fulbright. Tulsa police are still trying to find out what happened to the woman's 11-year-old son, but they believe he was murdered 2 years ago and nobody knew. News on 6's Emery Bryan is live at the courthouse with the latest. Emery?
Craig and Lori, these allegations include starvation and beatings of 3 children, one of them possibly murdered, but for sure missing at least 2 years. 11-year-old Orlando Hugger Jr. is the child who is missing, who police believe is murdered while they investigate long-term child abuse and neglect. Officers arrested Camille Lewis and her boyfriend, John Miles, who lived in this house with 3 children, all of them victims in the case, according to police.
I'm just trying to do what I can to make sure my son can rest in peace.
Orlando Hugger Sr. believes the son who shares his name was indeed murdered, and he says he spent lots of late nights trying to find him for the last 2 years, working through an estranged relationship with Lewis, the mother of 2 of his children.
Got so many questions. it's not really going to make things better, but it'd be nice to know exactly what happened.
In their first court appearances, Lewis and Miles didn't say much as the judge set their bond. $1.3 million for her, $1.9 million for him, higher because of extra charges of sexual abuse against the children. Caprine Jones, who considers himself a second father to Camille, says he can't believe the accusations.
I can't even wrap my head around it. I'm still waking up in a dream. I can't believe it.
Orlando's father says it's his understanding that the other children living with Lewis and Miles are now in protective state custody. He hopes to get custody, though, of his own 13-year-old daughter one day. Reporting live at the courthouse, Emery Bryan, Oklahoma's own News on 6.
Okay. Please remember to hit the thumbs up too. Said that John Miles and Camille Lewis are facing a count of child abuse by injury and child neglect, which they got the other charges now, which we just went over that. Killed a kid, dug the kid up, burned him, and put him down a drain. I have no words exactly. It's got to be horrendous for the father. Can you imagine the grandmother too? But she speculated and didn't do nothing, you know? Police said the 13-year-old girl was sent to live with a grandmother recently. Her grandmother asked the girl where the brother was, and she said he was dead and that her mother and stepfather had killed him. Okay, why didn't she contact them back in September? Why didn't she tell them back in September? How come been waiting till? Because these stories are February. Why didn't something be told earlier? You know what I'm saying? Debbie Kalanick lives in the neighborhood just a few doors down and said her mom lives across the street. Horrible, horrible. It's just horrible. Something like that can happen literally right outside of my mother's house, you know? And us not to know anything about it, said Debbie Kalanick, a neighbor. I wish I knew more about the situation earlier. That's all I can say. And all I can say to other people is that you see something, say something, do something. Debbie said was the girl was friends with Debbie's granddaughter. Oh man. They would play and talk and stuff at school and everything, but she wanted to come down and play in their house, and I wouldn't let her because I knew there had been drive-by shootings because their car had been sitting out and been shot at. Windows shot out and stuff like that. And so I just didn't find it like a safe, environment for them to be in. The little girl was really sweet and nice, and I talked to her quite a bit. Debbie said she believes the family moved out about 6 months ago and would come from time to time to pick up mail and haul the trash out. She said police have been in and out of the neighborhood this week. Yes, the hush hush thing. Exactly. My mama told me that there was a whole bunch of police presence and undercover cops, and they had brought a dog out there, said Debbie. The arrest report said the girl said she and her brother were starved for days and were locked in separate closets for weeks, even months at a time. It said the children were beaten repeatedly with belts and cords, covered in scars, and they were forced to use the restroom in a cup or bag in the closets. It said in order to get food, the girl had to do sexual favors for Miles. The girl told police that her mother told her the little boy died from having a seizure. The girl said she heard him yelling for the boy to wake up, but he didn't. And her mother told her Miles and his cousin buried the boy in a nearby park. She said they worried it was too shallow, so they dug him up and brought him back to the house where they burned his body in a barrel and dumped the ashes in a drainage system. Drainage system kind of like a commode or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's just awful when something like that happens to kids because their defenses, you know, to given to us by God to take care of and protect. Boy, said Debbie. Police said Lewis admitted she withheld food for the children and beat them, but denied her son's death. The report says she told police the boy ran away in the fall of 2022, and after about a week of looking, they quit and never called police. Yeah, likely story, right? Miles denied any knowledge of any abuse. Yeah, right. I don't think there's a place you can put them that's far enough away from society, said Debbie. Miles was a stepdad to these two children, but he and Lewis had three children of their own as well. Oh, wow. So there were three other children living in that home also besides these two. Detectives told us they are treating this case as a homicide. So it makes you wonder if he essayed his own daughter as well. It makes you wonder. And here's where the parents charged with torture a kid forced to sleep in igloo-style dog house. Here's the two culprits right here. There's the culprits right there. Camille Rechae Lewis and John Lawrence Miles in the Tulsa, Oklahoma County Jail. The mother and stepfather had been arrested in Oklahoma in connection with torturing their two children for years, one of whom died and the other left malnourished and scarred. Don't say their two children because it's stepfather. That's not his children. You took away another guy's child. You did that. You sexually abused another man's child. You don't even classify as being a father. You don't classify as being a mother because a mother don't do this kind of crap. Not supposed to. Camille Rechae Lewis and John Lawrence Miles were taken into custody, and like I said, this was back February the 16th, and since then, you've seen earlier when they got that big, large bail bond amount. So stop sharing that. Okay. You see where you got that big bond amount. Yeah, it would not surprise me either if he essayed his own daughter. It makes me wonder if since they got an act of abusing, and it was her kid that she abused also. They gotta be abusing these other kids as well. She abused her own two other kids. You know, this is a sad, sadistic story. I saw this and I was like, "Dude, what?" And a drainage system can be anything. It could be like a drainage ditch, or it could be where you do it down the kitchen sink a little at a time using that disposable type of thing. It could be in with that. It could be in a storm drains in the city, storm drains. Anything like that. They could have easily put it down there. You know what I'm saying? Flushed. Anything. This is horrific now. I bet if they checked that house, they would probably, as much as these kids got beaten, they would find his blood there, I'm sure. It's easy to find. They might think that they cleaned all the blood up, but I'm sure that you can use luminol and find it around. And if he did die from a seizure, that's not something, that is not, it was a seizure from starvation. They were starving the poor child. They were skin and bones. The body cannot tolerate that. Had he been given food and stuff like that, the child probably would not have had seizures. Can't see how they could like doing that for their own child and even defecating in bags and defecating in cups, belittling them that way, making them sleep, even making them sleep outside in the cold weather. And this was Oklahoma. It gets pretty cold there in the winter too. They get them exercise in the cold. That reminds me of the case up in New York where the police officer um, went out there in the wintertime and sprayed his autistic son down with a water hose. And of course, he collapsed and died because he was always beating him and not feeding him and all that other kind of stuff. And he was keeping the children away from the mom too. So this is going on too much when the parents are keeping the children away from their dad or their other parent, like in New York, the dad was keeping it from the mom, and he was a police officer. And they even changed where they can actually file charges against the judges, against the children's services, and all that for putting reports against the mom for not listening to the mom about the danger that the father was and all that. So maybe with this case, something's got to be done. Plus, they did not. Um, it's a dead giveaway too that she said the son was missing for 2 years and she never called the police. You know what I'm saying? Was missing for 2 years and never called the police. And I believe she confided in the daughter, and that's why the daughter told. And I wondered, the cousin that helped Barry, man, was the cousin threatened also to do this or else? Exactly. Yes, they do. Like in that other case, that DCS worker, the court system that found that other girl, when it was brought to attention about her being abused and stuff, and it's a senseless death. Her being 4 year old. It's a senseless death. They're senseless. Um, I want to thank you for coming again, Jackie. I just wanted to get this story out as well. Yeah, children's lives are in danger. Exactly. And how many of these people knew that these kids were being abused because all the scars that was on them? School teachers probably seen them and everything. You know what I'm saying? But I think with them living in a bad area when there's shootings and stuff going around, I think the school teachers are afraid to tell. It's like nobody wants to get involved. Nobody wants to get involved anymore. I think it's good that she didn't wind up pregnant and having her stepdaddy's child. Yes, it's okay. Yes, please do. Please do share these posts because I think it's important getting the stories out. I hated that I messed up the first thing because StreamYard was messing up, but I tried to make it right and put it back where you saw the whole video. That's what was being said. And thank you for being here for me and bearing with me as well. Appreciate everything you do. Thank everybody who's here. I see that there are 3 people here. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It does help me a lot. I appreciate it. Pray for the children that are involved and pray for these children that they haven't been SA'd or beaten and all that other stuff. They had to witness a lot of things. I'm sure that they witnessed a lot of this cruelty. If they didn't have to go through it themselves, which if they usually do one, they usually do another. Hi there, Cash. Good to see you. Okay, thank you so much, Cash. I hope you're doing well. I'm glad you're here. Lots of love to you. Lots of love to you all. And I would say thank you and God bless. I just felt like this week and today needed the 2 different stories out there. It seems like you can't catch up with all the cases. There's more and more kids that's getting murdered out there just from the parents. Just one of those weeks, Cash. Well, I missed you, and I'm glad to see that you're here. Y'all take care. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast now, and I want to thank you all.